welcome to the maiden edition of Allyxtalk in Africa. My name is Musadik Abdul, and I have with me our maiden guest, Dr. Mrs. Tokunbo Awolowo, the former ambassador of Nigeria to the Netherlands. And also, not just an ambassador, it's the daughter of the sage, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, and one of the foremost Nigerian independence fighter, people who actually advanced the political economy of Nigeria, and the former premier of the western region of Nigeria. Join me in welcoming Ambassador Tokunbo Awolowo. Welcome, madam.
Thank you very much.
With your knowledge of international affairs and as a former ambassador to the Netherlands, which is the hub of the Europe, basically, where do you think Nigeria rank in international reckoning today?
That's a very difficult question to answer because it's difficult in the sense that the reality is not very pleasant from where I'm sitting. But I suppose other people might have other ideas about it. But recently, a few documents have been trending online. One is about corruption in Nigeria, and the other one is about governance, and neither of them is very complimentary. So the short answer to your question will be, we can do better.
Just to touch on about what is going on, what we are seeing online, corruption and so forth about Nigeria. Very recently, there's been surge in Nigerians seeking asylum in Europe, in North America, crossing the desert, crossing the Mediterranean Sea. How do you think this tide can be stemmed?
The only way the tide can be stemmed is if the environment, there's an enabling environment for young Nigerians to thrive. In other words, there will be employment for the majority, and the opportunities for entrepreneurship will be readily available, and the country is actually generally more livable in. I think that is the only way. Any other way is just
basically it borders on economic
on economy, on the governance of the country, on the way the country is run, on our priorities. That is what it borders on. It borders on governance.
So that will lead us to the leadership issue. That means there is dearth of leadership in African countries.
Clearly, those who go out and embark on such hazardous, such very dangerous journeys to get to Europe, consider the risks worth taking. Those horrendous risks, they think are better than their prospects in Nigeria, and that says so much about this country. Therefore, yes, you're right. The leaders need to pay attention and actually do something about creating a country in which everybody will thrive, not just a few.
Talking still on leadership, and since you instituted the Obafemi Awolowo Leadership Prize in 2012, it seems only two people, Professor Wale Soyinka and Thabo Mbeki, have been judged to be worthy of this honor. Do you think there is still basically a shortage of good leaders in Africa?
Well, maybe not. Maybe the ones that would merit the prize have just not been nominated. It's possible. But clearly, the criteria are quite, there are quite a number of them, and quite frankly, it's difficult to find. Papa is a tough act to follow, that is for sure. And therefore, we will keep trying and keep hoping that the nominations will come in.
Are we going to see anyone soon?
Sorry?
Are we going to see anyone,
Well,
worthy of that honor very soon
The
again?
advertisements are out again, and so we await when the nominations are coming in. So the committees will work and sift through those nominations, and hopefully we'll be able to get. But it's a problem in Africa. If you must know about the Mo Ibrahim Prize as
Yes.
well, and that had not been awarded for quite a number of years, until recently it was awarded to the erstwhile president of Nigeria. So this is unfortunately the story of Africa, or the story of Africa's leadership. And we can only hope that with time we will get there. But I'm praying that it wouldn't be too long.
So that would take me, still on late Chief Obafemi Awolowo, the sage. How would you describe your father, of course, your father's styles of governance and the crop of leaders that we have now, or since since 1999 when democracy returned to Nigeria?
You want me to compare the two?
Yes.
Well, for Papa, he had only one reason to be in public office, and that was to serve. There were no two ways about it. His only reason for being there was to serve. I was talking to some people just this morning, and I told them this is something that many people probably don't know, but that the tax that he paid as a lawyer was more than his salary as premier when he became the head of government in Western region. But for him, it was the sacrifice was worth it, because that was his mission in life. He prepared himself all his life for leadership. So that's another difference between him and the leaders of today. We've highlighted two differences. One is that he prepared from a very early age. He prepared for leadership. He acquired education, he prepared himself, he disciplined himself, he learned about what was going on in other parts of the world. He learned what development was and why we needed it. I mean, he put in place what is now the Millennium Development Goals in the 50s, and for him the building blocks for development were the human beings in any geopolitical entity. So for him, man was the building block, and you could only develop if you developed every single person to the highest potential, which is what the human development paradigm of the World Bank says now. He saw all that long ago. Now you can say that maybe that was unusual, perhaps it was unusual, but he laid a foundation, and so for him that was what government is about. I'm not sure we can say the same now about people who find themselves in leadership position Was it something they worked for all their lives? I don't know. I don't see much of that on display right now. Maybe I'm just being too judgmental, but I think we need to see people who are prepared for leadership and are prepared to sacrifice to lead, and people who make leaders who make the people their priority. I think we need to see more of that. So I'll stop there.
Look at the democratic value of late Chief Obafemi Awolowo compared to what we call democracy now. Any similarity?
There's a world of difference. There is a world of difference. Papa led by example, that is one. And he was a Democrat through and through. He did not impose on anyone. Even the programs of the party, his parties were a product of collective work. I mean, he had the ideas, and of course he would lay his ideas on the table, and he would allow everybody to debate it. Anyone who had anything against it could talk. But for him, it was always, if he could be persuaded by superior argument, superior logic, he of course he allowed it. But if not, that was, everybody would see that they would go with the superior logic. That was how they did it. And they went out canvassing for votes on very specific mission and programs and vision for the country. And there was no ambiguity about what they stood for. And when they got into office, they delivered almost immediately. In the Western region, in 1954, thereabouts, when they had the Western region elections, they were sworn in February, but the elections held in September of that year. I may be wrong about those years.
About the dates,
but it was around about then. Elections were held in September. They had their cabinet in place by November. They had written out all their plans, everything was in place by the time they were sworn in February, and within a month or thereabouts, they had passed all these things through the House of Assembly, and they hit the ground running, and they were very, very efficient and very focused about what they were doing, and there was no doubt. And of course, the people saw that and gave them support. So their support was never bought, purchased.